最近找工作可太难了，真的，我跟你讲，
我可能活不下去了，因为我刚失业了，刚刚办完离职手续，北漂12年，
毕业就是失业。在那些找不到工作的大学生中，最惨的是来自于农村的那些。
你这睡到这来。没事没事，多大啊今年？14，别哭别哭啊！
我有的时候真的就在想，我上大学到底有什么意义？我从毕业开始到现在面试了，将近有50多家公司了。
最近找工作可太难了，真的，我跟你讲，我身边很多同学最近在找工作嘛，找不到，真的找不到。北大的同学毕业即失业，前几年的时候，米哈游像这种厂，我们找我们都不去的。然后现在是我们给人家投 offer，然后人家根本就不要我们。不是我没有投，但是我觉得我投了应该也是差不多一个结果。所以真的想跟在读大学的学弟学妹说，你抓紧提升点硬实力。
Over 11 million university students in China graduated this summer into the most challenging job market in decades. Youth unemployment in China's cities has hit 46.5%, meaning almost half urban residents aged 16 to 24.
我不知道今年深圳有多少人失业，但是如果你也像我一样不幸失业了，在深圳几个月还没有找到工作，这样的一个条件呢，在深圳这种一线城市居然都找不到工作，突然就觉得真的很惶恐，人生活着真的是很艰难刚刚躺在客厅沙发上的时候呢，我听到房东在敲我隔壁的邻居的门，说他上个月15号就该交房租了，但是拖了大半个月还没有交。我们的房租呢是一个月1500，说实话，我现在身上也只有6-7千块钱了，我不知道这一幕未来会不会发生在我身上，这一下子就会让我感到巨大的一个压力、恐慌和无力感，因为我确实是不知道未来又要在哪里的，就感觉人生真的是很艰难。如果11月份的话，我在深圳还找不到工作，我可能就准备要回老家了，等来年的时候呢，就换一座城市去发展了。
This stark statistic, while jarring, captures only a glimpse of the simmering youth unemployment crisis threatening China's social fabric and economic future. Left unresolved, mass youth joblessness poses risks beyond just slower GDP numbers. It seeds deep societal problems, from rising mental health issues and inequality to stunted human capital formation and social unrest.
我已经失业躺家中1年多了，慢慢被家里人嫌弃，成为了村里的3无人员。19岁那年，和朋友一起去广州接触了烘焙，回来又做了大半年。因为口罩各行各业都不好做，薪资待遇也不是很好，上班赚的钱都赶不上在外面的开销。后来还是选择先回到农村待着，也成为了村里人议论和唾弃的对象。已经24岁的人了，说大也不大，说小也不小了。身边的同龄人甚至有一半都结婚了。每次家里来客人，我都会被八卦这件事，拿我和别人做比较。你看村里那谁都结婚了，你要到什么时候？每次八卦这件事情，我只能沉默，我也不好回答什么，毕竟自己也没那个经济实力。在我看来，自己想怎么过就怎么过吧，这是自己的事。
Mismatch between skills and jobs in a restructuring economy. One key mismatch lies between graduates' skills and available jobs within China's changing economic landscape. This imbalance has grown more stark as China transitions towards high-tech industries. The Chinese government is aggressively promoting advanced manufacturing and strategic sectors like semiconductors, electric vehicles, renewable energy, and biotechnology. However, education institutions have been slow to equip students with skills needed for these emerging industries.
我可能活不下去了，因为我刚失业了，刚刚办完离职手续， 北漂12年，今天是我上班的最后一天。都说2023年会很难，各个公司都在裁人，最终我也没能逃得过失业。早上我还是正常早起，坐公交车跨省上班，午饭也是正常点外卖。下午老板突然召集大家开会，没错，工作就到今天。大家探讨接下来的打算，因为有2个男同事40岁了，也不好找工作。
For instance, engineering and finance are among the most popular university majors, accounting for 40% of graduates in 2021. But recruitment cutbacks in China's bloated property sector and tightened regulations in finance led developers and banks to slash headcount. Graduates who majored in civil engineering or finance based on China's old growth drivers have found job openings dried up. Yet they lack the programming or data analytics skills now covered under China's industrial policies like Made in China 2025.
今年的毕业生们啊，太难了。一个非常惊人的数据啊，今年夏天有1158万毕业生，这还是高校的毕业生，要走出校门，要找工作了。这比去年又多出了82万，再次刷新了毕业季的记录。相应的，青年人的失业率有多高呢？不比不知道，一比吓一跳啊！最近这3年，中国青年的失业率几乎翻了1倍。2019年3月，青年失业率11.3%，到2022年7月
，According to the National Bureau of Statistics definition, unemployment rate only includes those who voluntarily quit their jobs. Those without social insurance contributions are not counted, so the real data is likely higher than 20.8%. This is really difficult. Some have bitterly joked that those born in the 50s experienced being sent down to the countryside. Those born in the 60s dealt with layoffs. Those born in the 90s faced rounds of downsizing. And now those born after 2000 are hit with an unemployment wave. Are college degrees worthless now? Are there too many college grads? Why doesn't getting an education change your fate anymore for this generation? It seems to have failed and become useless. At the same time, China faces an acute shortage of skilled manufacturing laborers as its population ages. The country projects a deficit of nearly 30 million manufacturing workers by 2025, nearly half of the sector's workforce. But rural youths who could fill blue-collar factory jobs prefer pursuing white-collar tertiary degrees instead of technical vocational training. This inflates graduate unemployment while leaving vocational vacancies empty. The upshot is that China's education system has not adapted nimbly enough to re-skill youths for emerging strategic sectors with labor shortages. Widening gap between wages and living costs. The soaring living costs in large cities also dwarf the salaries offered to recent graduates, suppressing real incomes for educated youths. This compounds their growing disillusionment. Back in the early 2010s, fresh graduates could expect average starting salaries of 4,000 RMB to 5,000 a month. But average wages for entry-level roles have stagnated at around 6,000 RMB per month, about $850 over the past decade. Over the same period, housing prices in prosperous first-tier cities have skyrocketed beyond the reach of many young people.
你这睡到这了，没事没事，多大啊今年？合适，别哭啊。
For example, in Shanghai, the price index for homes surged 121% between 2010 and 2020. Today, the median price for a typical 90 square meter Shanghai flat exceeds 6 million RMB.
还是想讲讲农村大学生就业难的问题。机会公平是最重要的公平，然而，农村贫困家庭的大学生最缺乏的恰恰就是机会。他们曾经将希望寄托于教育，然而现实是这条路越走越难。农村家庭的普通本科院校毕业生成为就业最为困难的群体，失业率高达
is 83 times the average monthly salary for a recent graduate, implying they would need to work 83 years to afford an average home. Costs of healthcare, transport, and daily necessities have also steadily risen, squeezing disposable incomes. In other words, graduate salaries have lagged far behind the runaway growth in living costs, especially housing. Fresh graduates thus find their purchasing power diminished even as urban China becomes less affordable. This deepening wealth gap and lack of social mobility intensify their sense of grievance and distrust towards the system. Barriers to labor mobility from Hukou system. Furthermore, China's entrenched household registration system obstructs free movement of migrant laborers between rural and urban areas in search of better work opportunities. The hukou system classifies citizens as either rural or urban hukou holders. One's hukou status is inherited at birth and difficult to change. Rural hukou holders relocating to cities do not enjoy equal access to healthcare, education, and other public services, which are reserved mainly for urban hukou holders.
毕业就是失业，在那些找不到工作的大学生中，最惨的是来自于农村的那些孩子。家里出了个大学生，鲤鱼跳龙门，结果吧，大学毕业了找不到工作，这些孩子有没有退路？能不能回去啃老？显然不行。反过来，家里还得指望他给家里寄钱，毕竟在农村，供一个大学生是一件很沉重的负担。那么这些农村的大学生找不到工作怎么办？只能去跑外卖。在跑外卖的大学生中，最主要的就是来自于农村的孩子。
Most rural youths cannot easily transfer their hukou to dynamic cities like Shanghai and Shenzhen, where better jobs exist. The bureaucratic hurdles and added costs of switching hukou status present major obstacles. This results in serious labor market inefficiencies. In short, China's hukou system acts as a form of institutionalized discrimination, hindering fair job search prospects for rural graduates. This entrenches inequality of opportunities. While the economic havoc inflicted by zero-COVID restrictions drove the recent explosion in youth unemployment, these long-standing structural issues in China's political economy have also bred vast imbalances in its labor market. Meaningful solutions must therefore address both the cyclical and structural dimensions of this jobs crisis threatening Chinese youth. The human toll of prolonged joblessness, unresolved. China's youth unemployment crisis threatens to unleash deeper socioeconomic aftershocks beyond just faltering GDP growth. Prolonged joblessness spells looming trouble on several fronts, aggravating inequality. Mass youth unemployment exacerbates income inequality and a sense of intergenerational unfairness in urban China. Jobless youths earn zero income while housing costs remain high, widening China's urban wealth gap. They struggle to afford basic necessities, much less pursue the modern material lifestyles glorified by social media influencers. Unemployed graduates also feel acute disappointment at the lack of economic return on their educational investments, unlike the career success that eluded their parents' generation. This resentment towards established professionals breeds social divides, drag on consumption, and grow. High youth unemployment dampens household consumption levels. Those under 35 comprise over 20% of China's consumption expenditures, but unemployed youths have scant disposable income to spend on discretionary purchases. Lower consumption, which makes up around 60% of China's GDP, will undermine economic revival. It also entrenches low inflation by depressing demand for goods and services. This results in slower job creation, turning low growth and high unemployment into a vicious spiral. Wasted human capital. Another insidious effect is gradual depreciation of China's human capital as the skills and knowledge of sidelined graduates atrophy over time. This represents wasted previous investments into education and training. 2 years of job searching since graduating have left Li Ming, the Shanghai finance major, despondent. Before, I was confident of passing banking job interviews after studying relevant modules in school. But without using or developing my finance knowledge for so long, I'm becoming rusty, he lamented. Such erosion of human capital undercuts China's productivity and competitiveness, hampering its efforts to move up the economic value chain. It also represents sunk costs for families who scrimped and saved to send their children through higher education. Social instability risks. Finally, mass youth unemployment poses latent risks of social unrest. Young people with little stake in the prevailing economic order could channel their pent-up frustrations into activism against government policies. There are historical parallels, like the 1989 Tiananmen Square protest, led by university students dissatisfied with corruption and bleak job prospects. Even if giant protests seem unlikely today, High youth unemployment corrodes trust in governance. China's youth unemployment crisis has metastasized into a ticking time bomb threatening social stability. The lost generation of jobless graduates face a hopeless future of inequality, atrophied skills, and simmering discontent towards the regime. With wages lagging far behind runaway housing costs, the urban wealth gap now engulfs Chinese youths. Prolonged unemployment has led to an epidemic of eroded abilities as human capital decays. Pent-up frustration is reaching a boiling point, portending volcanic unrest against the government's failed policies. The CCP's social contract depends on delivering rising prosperity, but the regime has betrayed Chinese youths through its rigid hukou system, mismanaged COVID response, and unsustainable growth model. Amid this broken social contract, the flames of resentment roar louder each day. If the youth unemployment crisis remains unresolved, China's next generation may channel their anger to upend the existing economic and political order. The wasted potential of millions of disenfranchised graduates represents a catastrophic failure of national development.